I ran to his side, and it was the most horrific sight of my life. I hope nobody ever has to see something so horrible. I won't go into the details, but it was inhuman. What I saw was inhuman. To be left in limbo like this, to be left in the dark, just sitting on the armchair, brooding all the time, constantly, put me out of this misery. You know, have a heart. I thought laws were there to protect people, not to abuse of people. I feel abused by the system. For as long as we've lived in this house, this door has never been locked. In fact, I actually forgot it could be locked. That particular day, it was a Saturday at 11, as I normally do before I go out. I informed him I was going out, and to attract his attention, I normally knock on the first door, open it, then knock on the second, because, you know, it made it more likely that he'd hear me. And when I did that morning, I found the door was locked. I still can't understand why. Then he came out. I told him we were leaving. We had some errands to do, Mummy and I. And I heard him locking it again after talking to me. I thought it was strange, but I didn't know what was going to happen later. So, you know, we're in a hurry. We're late for our appointments. And we returned home at 1. And our garage is right there. As people normally do, I used the remote control. The garage door came up, and I thought I was going to reverse into the garage. However, this horrific sight, you know, there's a ladder on the floor, his specs to one side, his broken watch to the other, a lake of blood in the middle, and he was nowhere to be seen. Now, I knew straight away it had to be him, because apart from the dog, he was the only member of the family in the house at the time. Left the car in the middle of the road, rushed in, and found him seated over there. Semi-conscious, incoherent, totally unaware of what had happened. He didn't know he had an accident. He never remembered what happened till the end. And I phoned up 112, you know. Within 30 minutes, we're in resuscitation. He was as limp as a rag doll. Eventually, the doctor who was in charge explained to me that Mario had sustained 2 fractures on the lower left part of his head and what they call a contre-coup bleeding. Basically, when the head thumps, the brain jolts, and so at a tangent here, where the brain hit his skull, he had a small patch of blood, internally though. He said, however, neither the fractures nor the contre-coup bleeding would need surgical intervention, because they would monitor the patch of blood, make sure it's receding. And if it doesn't, then they would operate at a later day. And the 2 fractures he had here, he was lucky enough that the bones remained side by side. They didn't overlap. And he said if we immobilize him, they will fuse naturally. So he'll be spared surgery. This was a Saturday. The following Thursday, we were told he was going to be discharged. And we were aghast. We thought, you know, if you're telling us that he needs to be immobilized because of the cranial fractures, how are you going to send him home? If he's still having fits, because he was still having fits, Anyway, they insisted, they were adamant, and as a safety measure, since I have my mother with me, you know, and I can't cope with Mum is not an invalid, but you know what I mean? And because my sons are in the medical field as well, my younger son took him home. This was the Thursday afternoon, and he was obviously not in a fit state to be home. He was getting fits, uncontrollable, unimaginable strength, to the extent that he broke double glazed windows during one of the fits, you know.
What would a fit look like? He'd be lying down, or?
Yes, he would run, he would hit, he didn't know what he was doing. And by Friday afternoon, my sons decided, you know, I was here with Mummy, and my sons were with him. I'd been with him all day, but then it was time to, you know, settle Mummy. By that time, my sons phoned me up and said, Ma, we need to take Papa back to hospital. We don't like the look of him. And they did. I was in telephone contact. You know, Mummy was in bed, but I remained awake. And they were keeping me informed as to what is happening. And by midnight, he was taken up to the medical ward this time. Apparently, they didn't have a bed in the ward which was best suited for him. And they found a bed in the medical ward. They were with him, my boys were with him till 20 past midnight. And he was fully conscious. In fact, he himself told them, thank you for your help. Go home now. It's time for you to go to your families and sleep. I'm going to sleep. I'm fine. Don't worry about me. This was 20 past midnight. They called me. They said, Ma, we're leaving. Papa's okay. You can go to bed. Don't worry. There's nothing to worry about now. He's in good care. 2 hours later, the phone rang, the landline, and they told me, hurry up. The family has to hurry up and come to hospital. Rush. I asked over the phone, you know, is he still alive? Is he dead? What has happened? Isat kelmek tabiba. Isat kelmek tabiba. They wouldn't divulge any information. Within 10 minutes, you know, I threw something on, and at that time of night, no traffic, thank goodness. So within 10, 15 minutes max, I was in hospital. I was in the ward. There were the nurses in the nursing station, and none of them would give me any information. They gave me a chair, and they kept saying, Stenna sat kelmek tabiba. The first inkling I got was from a nursing aide who took pity on me. I was by then hysterical. And she offered a drink, you know, water, and she got me a glass of water. She was caressing my back, and assuming I'd already been informed, she told me what happened. He fell off the bed. They didn't know for how long he was on the floor. By the time they found him, he was in dire straits. I waited a while longer, totally lost, nobody talking to me, ignoring my existence. And then I saw them rushing with the stretcher. I guessed it was him. I tried to hug him, and they pushed me aside. You can't stop us. So far, nobody has informed me, but what with the nursing aides and what I saw, I was escorted to the quiet room outside the ITU. Eventually, a very nice doctor came and said, Mario's practically dead. There was a hairline chance that he might be saved with surgery. And everyone was scrubbing already. She couldn't waste time, you know. She said, don't expect to hear from us for the next 3 hours. Just sit here and wait. We're going to do our best, I promise. In the meantime, one of my sons arrived, and then one of the others. I remember it was Friday, Our Lady of Sorrows, because I have this image of this very dark room. And in one corner, there was a big poster of Our Lady of Sorrows, and scores of candles and flowers, and the smell of the chrysanthemum and the melting wax, and just stuck. We waited. At 8 o'clock, the surgeon came, asked us to follow him, and he took us to a room, and he locked the door. And straight away I knew he wouldn't need to lock the door. And he gave us the news very slowly. And he told us that Mario had a heart attack during surgery, a massive cardiac arrest, which is what killed him. He was already on the verge of passing away. I mean, it was really minimal that he would survive. But then there was this cardiac arrest. So we were already on our knees by then, you know, like literally not knowing what hit us. And then the magisterial inquiry started, and it was one, very difficult, because we weren't allowed to bury him, because we had no option but to allow them to do an autopsy on him. Wouldn't want him to be further butchered. But we didn't have a choice. Another mystery we can't, you know, like, how does a man who is as limp as a rag doll, who actually had to be helped to learn how to walk again when he was in neurosurgical ward, you know, he kind of had to remember how to walk. How did he get from the garage all that distance, up those 4 stairs with no railing, all the way to this armchair, unaided? How? A rush of adrenaline, maybe? I don't know. What I know is there was a pool of blood, a massive pool of blood in the garage. This armchair was unsightly. His clothes, you know, was coated in blood, and not a single drop of blood in between the garage and the armchair. How can that happen? At 10 o'clock in the evening, I get a phone call from Zaytoun police station, 10 in the evening, mind you. And they say, you have to come to the Asata Zaytoun. And I thought they were going to tell me Mario passed away. So I said, you know, Mitirajel, I don't remember Pierre, you know the number. I had it written down, And I go there and I find that somebody had filed a missing person report on him.
On him?
Now, every single member of the family knew. And many of his patients came and rang the doorbell and asked, you know, because after the accident, I put a paper on the door, the clinic door, saying the clinic is going to be closed indefinitely.
Yeah.
We were not allowed to know. I asked, I wanted to know who had filed the report. It was data protected.
Okay.
I actually found, during the night when I came back, I actually phoned Depot about it. Okay. And Depot said it was very strange. They said, but normally it's got to be a member of the family to file a report for us to take it up. The magisterial inquiry was concluded about a month ago, roughly.
So
I can't tell you the exact day, but
because your lawyer
recently.
Okay.
I asked for a copy, and I was told I have to do it through a lawyer. I did so, and the lawyer informed me that the magistrate has decided not to disclose, not to let us have a copy. I was very surprised, you know, and I said, is this normal? I've been asking various people, not just my lawyer, and the answer is always the same. The magistrate has the right, but it's not often exercised. And now again, through my lawyer, we've appealed to the Attorney General to get this copy, but nothing has happened so far. And this
Okay.
is about 3 weeks ago, 2.5, 3 weeks ago.
Why do you want to know what happened?
Because I want these questions to be answered. I want to know what happened to my husband.